What's going on, folks? Welcome to Midweek Study Hall. If it's your first time here, my name is Philip Godfrey. If you're returning, welcome back, Bible Study family. And so, Midweek Study Hall and also weekly Bible study, really everything we do here is built off of the scriptures in Matthew 6:33. We're here the Messiah speaking, and he tells us to seek ye first the kingdom of the Father and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto you. So, this is why we gather. We gather to see, seek, and serve the kingdom of the Father. All right. And so, as part of midweek study hall and weekly Bible study, we have been on assignment this year, walking through the text, walking through the entirety of the book of the Bible, from creation to Revelation. And so now that brings us to today, we'll be looking at the book of Song of Songs or Song of Solomon. Okay. And so we looked at the book of Ecclesiastes on Sunday night as part of Bible study. I'm going to put a link of that right here somewhere. You can go back and catch that. If you ever want to catch any of the previous teachings, they're on my page in a playlist entitled From Creation to Revelation, and you can find all of the information that you need for that there. But I'm gonna go ahead and jump in, all right? So because we have some really good information to share with you all today. All right, so we're gonna be looking at the book of Song of Songs or Song of Solomon. I'm gonna be calling it the song. I'm gonna be referring to it as Song of Songs. Some of the translations have referred to as Song of Songs or titled Song of Songs, and some of them have it titled as Song of Solomon. And so really, and before we start any book, I'd like to give a background of kind of what's going on. And so here, the background of the book of the Song of Solomon or the Song of Songs is it gets the name from the fact that in the first verse it says that this book was of Solomon's. It's a song of Solomon's, okay, and that's how it gets the verse, the title. When the other title of the Song of Songs, that comes from the fact that Solomon wrote 1,005 songs, and so this is seen as the preeminent song. This is seen as the song of the songs. Like this is the one that stands out. This is the one that is most important. This is the one that we should be looking at, and the one that has been left for us. And this book is canonized into the scriptures, so it is there for a reason. I know that through my study that there is a camp of people who do not believe that this book has any value or adds any value to it. There's many camps and many streams of thought on how this book should be kind of taken in or how it should be consumed and kind of what the revelation is. I'm not really here to do any of that for you. I'm here to give you the information, and then you can reach the conclusion that you desire to reach. And so the book of Song of Songs is about a couple. It's about a young woman and a young man and their love and desire for one another. And throughout the process, what we'll see in the book is that this man and this woman, they ebb and flow through many different seasons of their relationship. Even though the book is only 8 chapters, there's a lot of dialogue from the woman about her thoughts on her about herself and how could this man ever truly love her. And then their thoughts there's feedback from the gentleman, like, this is why I love you. I love these things about you, these traits. And so it's not just purely physical. There's a lot of references presented in the book that we, just being transparent, don't fully understand today, in our season, in our generation of life that we live in. Back then, when he compared her temples to pomegranates, that would have been important because that's how they viewed the world. That's how they viewed their life, through the fruit. As he said that her breasts are like does. Like, that would have been important because that's how they viewed life. And today we would just say other certain things, but this is really them kind of expressing themselves very intentionally, and also building them up. So today, these would be the compliments of the day, if that makes sense. And so it talks about this, and it goes from the contrast of like two very extreme, two different extremes. There's one, today we deal with these extremes of like abstinence and lustful perversion outside of marriage and all these things, but really what Solomon's Song of Songs does, it really exalts the purity of marriage. It exalts the purity of marital affection and romance, and it also teaches us the beauty of the boundaries that have been set around marriage that the father set over in the book of Genesis. And we talked about boundaries at length before. You can go back and watch that teaching. And so these parallels, they enhance the other portions of the scripture to really portray God's plan for marriage. And so it talks about the beauty and sanctity of intimacy between physical intimacy between a husband and wife. It talks about, it talks about um, they move and operate through courtship in the early days of marriage, and then kind of growing into a couple that is seen as a strong couple in their region and area and different things like that. So in my humble opinion, the book of Solomon, the book of Song of Solomon, is about a marriage. Okay, because that's what I see when I look at it at face value. You may reach other conclusions, but also when we begin to discuss marriage, we have to get out of the mindset of marriage as we consider it today. And I'm not talking about between a man and a woman. I'm not. That's not to be questioned. What I'm talking about is the overall picture, the overarching picture for marriage, and the overarching picture for marriage, even as we see over in Genesis, is that the Father has a plan for humanity, and this humanity, this group of believers, this group known as the bride, is being prepared for a bridegroom who is his son. Does that make sense? The Messiah. And so even though we can see it as marriage, applicable for marriage on our individual levels, there's also a bigger more corporate vision for marriage that must be kept in mind as well. So this book can also be seen as, as a depiction of the marriage between the Messiah and his bride. Does that make sense? And so when we speak about intimacy in that regard, that level of intimacy is different than how we intimacy with us and our physical marriages are portrayed. Just like the Father says throughout in the scriptures that there's no giving in marriage in heaven and different things. Like, I mean, the Messiah says that when he's asked the question about who's going to be the wife, the husband of this lady, he's like, there's like the angels. There won't be any marriage in the way that you know it today. So I don't want to stay there too long. Hopefully you guys are still with me. So let's get going. I have introduced it enough. So I'm gonna be reading from the New King James Version today, and so let's jump in. I feel like it just portrays the words a little bit better. Chapter 1. Let's read verse 1. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon. So this here, the book is historically attributed to Solomon as writing, but over time, historians and theologians no longer believe that Solomon wrote the book. They believe that the book was written about Solomon, not that he is the actual author or penner of the book. Okay, so that's a little bit there. And so let's read verses 2 through 4. And it introduces here, the New King James Version refers to the young lady as the Shulamite, and then it refers to the gentleman as the beloved. All right. And so the Shulamite would have made her a descendant of a certain region. So that's really what they're calling her. They're calling her like the girl from this area, essentially. Hopefully that makes sense. And so let's read verse 2. The Shulamite is speaking. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. Because of the fragrance of your good ointments, your name is ointment poured forth. Therefore, the virgins love you. Draw me away. Then it says the daughters of Jerusalem. So the daughters of Jerusalem would have been those women who lived in proximity to her in the palace or in wherever she stayed as the wife of the king. These would have been people in her arena, in her purview, if that makes sense. The daughters of Jerusalem responded, we will run after you. The Shulamite, the king has brought me into his chamber. So now we see that the setting of this particular part of the passage is that she is in the king's chamber. So this is talking, the book is not in chronological order. That's number one. And so for this part, she's saying, hey, the king has brought me into his chambers. He's opened his doors unto me. And so we see here that there's already a measure of relationship between her and this king. All right. Then the daughters of Jerusalem respond, we will be glad and rejoice in you. We will remember your love more than wine. The Shulamite, rightly do they love you. And so here, essentially, what she's saying, as we are introduced to her, the Shulamite in this conversation, she's speaking of her lover, the beloved. She's talking about him, who we know to be Solomon. She's talking about him. She's saying that she understands why the women love him, but she can't really understand why he loves her. So she, through her lens of everything that she's gone through, everything that she's experienced, she's in this position now. She can't believe that this type of man would desire to be in relationship with her. And she goes on to talk about, as we look a little bit deeper, and if you read the rest of the verses, we're not going to read all of them, but she goes on to talk about her appearance, and she kind of shows or exposes a little bit of having a little bit of self-consciousness about herself. She talks about how she's dark skinned, how she was tanned, and the sun darkened her because she had to work outside because the people in her home were upset with her, and how she had kept up the vineyards of others. So she's basically saying, like, I saw after everything that everyone else had, but I didn't take care of myself. And so in verse 7, we see that she's also looking for her beloved. Okay, so it's language there that says that she's asking around and say, hey, do you know where my beloved is? Do you know where he feeds his flock? Do you know where he rests? Because, and she's like, hey, she shouldn't be out here wandering around like a prostitute. She needs to know where he is so that she can go and spend time with him. So this shows us that this was a season where they had known one another very intentionally, and then now she can't really understand why he would desire someone like her, but she's seeking after him still. Does that make sense? She's continuing to look for them in him, and even though she hasn't found him just yet, even though up until this point in verse 7, even though she's wandering, she's looking, she's trying to get back to that thing, that intimacy that they once had, and she hasn't been able to get there, her beloved then responds. Okay, verse 8 through 10, let's read that. The beloved respond, if you do not know. So it's basically like, if you don't know where I'm at, then don't come looking for me. But if you do not know, O fairest among women, follow in the footsteps of the flock and feed your little goats beside the shepherd's tents. I have compared you, my love, to my filly. So this is like a group of horses among Pharaoh's chariots. Your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with chains of gold. So here, this is one of the things I was talking about, like the how they saw the world back then versus now. Here he compares her to a horse, which on face may not be the best compliment or the best comparison, but it really is, because the reality is that the pharaohs, the kings of the land, would have had the most regal horses, especially Pharaoh of Egypt. He would have had Egyptian horses. He would have had the most lovely horses of the area. So what he's saying, he would have had the most. I don't like the word proud, but he would have had the most, like, regal. That's the word that keeps coming to mind. Like, regal of the horses of that region. And so he's saying that you are the most regal one. No matter what you think about yourself, this is, kind of, I'm adding to this for you. Kind of giving a little more color. He's telling her that no matter how you feel about yourself, no matter how dark you may feel, or how unlovely you may feel, or how worthless you may feel, no, you are as the most regal thing in this region to me. So it's really beautiful when you think about it. And so he goes on, and he's stating her that his longing for her and her beauty and her nature. And in verse 15, we see that he calls her fair. So no matter what she thought about herself, what he saw when he looked through his eyes was a beautiful maiden, okay? Was a beautiful young woman. And that's just chapter 1. So let's get going. Let's move on into chapter 2, all right? So as chapter 2 begins, we see both the Shulamite and the beloved. They're speaking about how each of them are unique to one another and how each of them stand out to each other. So the beloved, this is the gentleman, he goes on to speak about how the Shulamite is like a lily among thorns. So all these kind of, like, things that might not look that bad, but they stick you, the little annoying things. She is the beauty of that area. She is the beauty of that thing in his eyes. And then the Shulamite responds that her beloved is like an apple tree among all the trees of the woods. So now he's saying, like, all these trees out here, they just, if you think about this, if you are looking at some woods, And you're like, ooh, look at that tree in the woods. All the trees, if you're standing back and you're looking at some woods, all the trees just look like trees. But what she's saying is when she's standing there looking at all the trees of the woods, she can tell that he is the apple tree of this group. He's standing out, he's producing fruit, he's different, he's unique, and she loves her. She loves that about him. And then she goes on to say that she sat down in his shade, like as she's using the allegory as he's a tree. She sat down in his shade with great delight and found that his fruit was sweet to taste. I'm not gonna go there. And so next we see the Shulamite speaking to some of her friends around her, the daughters of Jerusalem. Let's look at verses 4 through 7, chapter 2. Verse 4: He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner was over me was love. Sustain me with cakes of raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am lovesick. She's lovesick. His left hand is under her head, and his right hand embraces her. Then she says this to the daughters of Jerusalem: I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, do not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases. So here she's recapping. This is my, as I read this is what I see, that she's recapping a time that she's basically telling her friends about a time when her and the beloved, when they were together. Okay. And she was like, hey, when we're spending this time together, and she's telling him, like, you got to really watch out that you are intentional to not awaken love too soon. And she's alluding to like physical affections and physical intimacy in a relationship, because what she's showing us or depicting for us is that there are boundaries to marriage, and the beauty of a marriage is found and built inside of the boundaries. So the beauty, I'm going to say it again, the beauty of a marriage is found and built inside of the boundaries. Who sets the boundaries? The Father had already set the boundaries over in Genesis. We aren't looking at that today. But the beauty, and she's telling them, like, no, this, like, he brought me into his house. He covered me. A banner was the name. Like when it says that the Father is a banner of victory, when they were going into war, the Hebrews were going into war, they would have banners over their heads to what's it called, like, kind of show who they were before they ever got there. So what she's saying is, like, he was the banner over her. So he was the thing that defined her. He was the thing that covered her. He was the thing that kept her. He was the thing that expressed who she was. He was her, like, covering on all those things. Like, he was all of that, and it was filled with love. It was rooted in and kind of anchored in love. Does that make sense? That she was sustained, that she was refreshed with his apples, where she just said that she was under his tree with fruit. So do you see how it's all tying in here? Hopefully you guys are with me. And so then the chapter pivots and it goes into talking about how the Shulamite is awaiting the return of her beloved, and how she is excited to see him again. So this is why I said earlier that she's recapping a time when they were together. They aren't physically together, because now in verse 14 it says this: "O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the cliff, let me see your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely." So she's saying this because she desires to see him again. She's longing to see him again. She's longing to hear his voice and to see his face once again, because she loves him. So it's talking also about here is like the maturation of their love. So this initial phase is just like them and desiring each other all the time, and just he's always on her mind. She's always on his mind. But there are things that he's outdoing. And another reality is, when we look at this in the context of the culture of the time, is that when they were betrothed, when they were engaged to be married, what essentially the man would say is, hey, I want to marry you, but I'm going to go back first and prepare a place for us to live. And then once that is done, I will come back. They didn't have cell phones, so the woman did not know when the bridegroom was supposed to be returning. And so this is a part of this as well. She's remembering them together. She's desiring for him to come back. Is he ready? Is it time? All of that is being packed into this story. But we don't really know all of that because we are living in 2025 and not in, BC, 5000 or whatever. So, and then that goes even further when we talk about the Messiah and his bride. How it says that you don't know when he's returning because he's going to prepare a place for you. That was the culture of the day. That's the backdrop of what's actually going on in this Hebrew culture. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know down in the comments. You got to leave some comments on this one. Let me know if you're picking up what I'm putting down. All right, chapter 3. And so that was the end of chapter 2. As we move into chapter 3, we see the Shulamite woman is speaking about a night when she was to expect the arrival of her beloved, and as she was in her quarters, but after he arrives and gets there, so she's in her room, he arrives, and she has fallen asleep. All right, and she goes out to look for him, and she eventually finds him. So let's look at verses 4 and 5. No, I said that incorrectly. Okay, so this chapter, it says that she's speaking about a night when she was to expect the arrival of her beloved, and she's waiting for him. She's in her bedroom waiting for him to come, and he never does. So she goes out to look for him, and she eventually finds him. Verse 4 and 5. Scarcely had I passed by them when I found the one I love. So she finds her beloved. I held him and would not let him go until I had brought him to the house of my mother and into the chamber of her who conceived me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. And the chapter goes on to continue with the Shulamite speaking about the woman, speaking about one of the times she saw her beloved. All right. And so it goes in verse 6 and 7, it says this. Who is this coming out of the wilderness like pillars of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all the merchants' fragrant powder? So it's basically like he coming out, he smelled good. What the dude got on? Who is like, dude? Look at him, and now he got smoke around him, like he's just standing out. And now what he smell like that too? Verse 7. Behold, it is Solomon's couch with 60 valiant men around it of the valiant of Israel. And so a lot is going on in here in the first few verses of chapter 3. But really, kind of what it looks like to me as I read this is that they had some type of interaction, and she's thinking that he's gonna come back. They had I'm not assuming. The way the text reads to me with the context is that there was some type of disagreement or some reason that for him to be with her, but he was not there with her. And so she goes out like, hey, what's going on? Why you're not here? And then brings him back into the home. And then she tells the daughters of Jerusalem again, do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. So it seems as if there was also some type of physical reconciliation at the time as well of them coming back home. And she goes out and she's explaining to the daughters what this man kind of is to her, what he looks like, his stature and all these things when we looked at verse 6 and 7. Chapter 4. And so in chapter 4, up until this point, the beloved, the gentleman, has been fairly quiet. But in chapter 4, we began to see him. It's him almost talking entirely about the beauty of the Shulamite, of his young lady, of his maiden, the one he loves and desires. And so we see him. At first, we were seeing he was distant, from her point of view. He's distant. He's not close. She's like, my beloved. See, I went looking for him, didn't find him, all those things. But now we hear a very near tone to his speech when he's speaking here. So let's look at this, verses 1 through 7, and then 11 and 12. You can read the whole thing, but I'm not going to read all of it. All of this is the beloved speaking. I'm going to read verses 1 through 7 and then jump down to 11 and 12. Behold, you are fair, my love. Behold, you are fair. You have dove's eyes behind your veil. Your hair is like a flock of goats going down from Mount Gilead. Your teeth are like the flock of shorn sheep. which have come up from the washing, everyone which bears twins, and none is bearing among them. So it's like, hey, you got all your teeth and they pretty. All right, verse 3. Your lips are like a strand of scarlet, and your mouth is lovely. Your temples behind your veil are like a piece of pomegranate. Your neck is like the Tower of David, built for armory, on which hang 1,000 bucklers, all shields of mighty men. Your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle, which feed among the lilies. Until the day breaks and the shadows flee away, I will go my way to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. You are all fair, my love, and there is no spot in you. So there's no like blemish in you. Verse 11. Your lips, O my spouse, drip as the honeycomb. Honey and milk are under your tongue. So how he know that? And the fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon. A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse. So when he says sister, he's just talking about her. A spring shut up, a fountain sealed. You know, do with that what you will. And so now his lover responds, the Shulamite responds in verse 16 and says, awake, O north wind, and come, O south, blow upon my garden, or her garden, I don't have a garden, that its spices may flow out. Let my beloved come to his garden and eat its pleasant fruit. So now it seems that their relationship has pivoted some. And now the garden that she has said is hers, she has now noted that it is his, seeming that there has been some transference of ownership, which to me depicts that the marriage has taken place. And what they are kind of depicting here, her and him, and he even mentioned like behind your veil, you have eyes behind your veil. So, there's a lot going on here, but it seems like they are growing in their love. And this is like a season of them being very close and intimate with one another, and really affirming each other in the process. Chapter 5. And so the chapter 5 begins with the beloved recapping an interaction that he had with the Shulamite to his friends. So he's talking to his friends here in verse 1. He says, I have come to my garden, my sister, my spouse. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I have drunk my wine with my milk. And so we just saw him say all those things about her, and now he's saying that they are his. He's referring to them as mine. All right? And then the friends respond, eat, O friends, drink, yes, drink deeply, O beloved one. So back then, the friends were just as happy as the bridegroom. Like they were ecstatic when these things happen. So I'm led to believe through the text here that, there's been some type of marriage or some type of, yeah, a, deepening of the relationship. And so now he's just excited and telling his friends about what happened. The chapter then pivots to the Shulamite woman depicting an interaction for us where the beloved came to see her, but she was asleep and was not presentable. And when she finally made it to the door, he was no longer there. And as she went after him, she was unable to find him. So again, this is not in order. All right. This is not in order. So just take that what you will. Let's read verses 2 through 8. I sleep, but my heart is awake. It is the voice of my beloved. He knocks, saying, open for me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one, for my head is covered with dew, my locks with the drops of the night. And then she responds, I have taken off my robe. How can I put it on again? I have washed my feet. How can I defile them? My beloved put his hand by the latch of the door, and my heart yearned for him. I arose to open for my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the lock. I opened for my beloved, but my beloved had turned away and was gone. My heart leaped up when he spoke. I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. The watchmen who went about the city found me. They struck me and they wounded me. The keepers of the walls took my veil away from me. And I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, tell him I am lovesick. And so here what we see happening is and so when I studied this out, what I found was during this time also so first and foremost, husbands and wives didn't necessarily live in the same place during this time and season. We see that with like Abraham. We see that with previous generations to this, where Sarah had a dwelling and then Abraham lived somewhere else in a different city. And so we see that with the kings as well. When we look at the story of Esther, how she had to go into the king's presence. So it's very real reality here that number one, that the Shulamite might not have been the only wife. Well, we know that Solomon had multiple wives, but that's not what we're getting into right now. But the reality is that they may not have lived together. And so what has happened, she potentially has happened. She's gone through her process of getting ready for bed. And there were very, very much like procedures that had to be followed for just the custom of the day for things like she says she's washed her feet. How can she defile them? Because they would wash their feet and then get into bed because they don't want dirt and sand and everything all over their bed and things. So like it's everything was a process, and if she had not known that her beloved was coming to see her, then she wouldn't have taken the steps to prepare or not prepare or pause her preparation, so that she could see her beloved. Seems like he just sprung up on her. And so another thing, since they didn't have like potentially have they didn't have phones or different things or other ways of messaging. Kind of what they would do is they would like have their signature scent, their frankincense and myrrh, or whatever, and they would put it on the door handle. The beloved would, and so when the young lady goes to the door and grabs the handle, that scent would rub off on her hands, and she would know that her husband had been there, or that her beloved, her man had been there, and vice versa. No, I think it only worked one way. She would know that her man had been there. And so she wasn't really supposed to be out at night by herself anyway, or just out roaming by herself anyway, especially if she's betrothed. So we see here that when it says that she went out into the city looking for him, and it says that the watchmen, they took her veil away from her, they wounded her, and they beat her up and stuff because of the custom of the day that really wasn't supposed to be how she was moving. Does that make sense for everybody? Hopefully that gives kind of some color about and context to what is going on here. And so yeah, when it says that like she opened it and verse 5 said, I arose to my beloved to open for my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the lock. So he had left that in the handle, or he left that on the door, because they might not have had handles like we have them now. It could have just been like an opening in the door or something, and they would just lather that in his frankincense and myrrh, and that would drip on her hand, and she would know. That's how she would know that she had a visitor. Basically, now we got Ring doorbells, and then somebody punch a doorbell and they take a video of them. Essentially, this is what was going on without all the technology pieces. I probably gave you way more than you ever wanted to know about that part. But let's keep going. In chapter 6. And so chapter 6 begins with the daughters of Jerusalem. They're asking the Shulamite woman where her beloved has gone. And let's look at her response in verses 2 and 3. My beloved has gone to his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed his flock in the gardens, and to gather lilies. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He feeds his flock among the lilies. Again, so now she's saying that, don't worry about, ain't nothing happened, nothing's out of the way. Like, he's still mine, I'm still his. We're still working this thing out. And she tells them where he is, and then the chapter pivots, and we see the beloved again, and he's praising the beauty of the Shulamite. He's praising the beauty of the young lady and how she is his favorite above all others. Let's look at that in verses 4 through 10 of chapter 6. Oh, my love, you are as beautiful as Tirzah, lovely as Jerusalem. And Jerusalem would have been a beautiful city at this time. It would have been like the pinnacle of cities or whatever. Anyway, so lovely as Jerusalem, awesome as an army with banners. Turn your eyes away from me, for they have overcome me. Your hair is like a flock of goats going down from Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep which have come up from the washing. Everyone bears his twins, and none is barren among them. Like a piece of a pomegranate are your temples behind your veil. And there are 60 queens and 80 concubines, and virgins without number. So we already know that they talking about Solomon, because we know that Solomon had all these wives and stuff and concubines. My dove, verse 9, my dove, my perfect one, is the only one of her mother, the favorite of the one who bore her. The daughters saw her and called her blessed, the queens and the concubines, and they praised her. Who is she who looks forth as the morning? For fair as the moon, clear as the sun, awesome as an army with banners. So here, something has gone on because the women are asking like, well, where's your beloved? She's like, we still together. You know what I'm saying? I'm mine. I'm his. He mine. Whoop de whoop. He probably like, what's up with all these wives? Like what? Anyway, but he responds and he's building her again, similar to how like when you as a man when you get in trouble, oh baby I love you, oh da, da, da. Like oh you're so beautiful, you be giving it. That's kind of how it feels to me as I'm reading this, that he's kind of backed himself into a corner. He's trying to talk his way out. He's like, yeah, I got all these wives and stuff, but they ain't you. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't need to worry about them. You don't need to feel threatened by them. Like they not you. Like you my man. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what's going on here, in my opinion. I'm just making it relevant for 2025 for you. All right, let's move to chapter 7. Not in my opinion, because this is me reading the text, and I guess it's my opinion. So anyway, let's keep going. Chapter 7. And so this chapter begins with the continuation of chapter 6, where we see the beloved continuing to acknowledge the beauty of his beloved of his lover, the Shulamite woman, the young lady. Verse 1. We're going to read verses 1 through 9. How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O prince's daughter. The curves of your thighs are like jewels, the work of the hands of a skillful workman. So your navel is like a rounded goblet. It lacks no blended beverage. Your waist is a heap of wheat set about with lilies. Your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. Your neck is like an ivory tower. Your eyes like the pools in Heshbon by the gate of Bath Rabbim. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon, which looks toward Damascus. Your head crowns you like Mount Carmel, and the hair of your head is like purple. A king is held captive by your tresses. How fair and pleasant you are, O love, with your delights. Verse 7. The statue of yours is like a palm tree, and your breast like its clusters. I said, I will go up to the palm tree. I will take hold of its branches. Let now your breasts be like clusters of the vine, the fragrance of your breath like apples, and the roof of your mouth like the best wine. The Shulamite woman then responds and said, no, no, no. Yes, the wine goes down smoothly for my beloved, moving gently the lips of sleepers. Okay, and now she's continuing to respond in verses 10 through 13. I am my beloved. This is the woman reading here. I mean, the woman speaking here. I am my beloved's, and his desire is toward me. Come, my beloved, let us go forth to the field. Let us lodge in the villages, so not the normal places. They going on a little vacation. They're going camping. Verse 12. Let us get up early to the vineyards. Let us see if the vine has budded, whether the grape blossoms are open and the pomegranates are in bloom. There, at that place, I will give you my love. The mandrakes give off a fragrance, and at our gates are pleasant fruits. All manner, new and old, which I have laid up for you, my beloved. So, long story short, seems like after chapter 7, things are going well for them. All right, let's keep going to chapter 8 to finish up. And so as this chapter begins, we see the woman, the Shulamite. She's speaking of her desire for her and the beloved to be even closer than they are. So it's kind of like they are maturing at this point in their relationship, and they are, close. But she's like, hey, if we could get even closer, she would love that. And again, we see her here also charging the daughters of Jerusalem to not stir up or awaken love until it's time. So I think also a piece here that I didn't say earlier is that she sees the danger. Now, I don't know if she sees the danger from experience or just she sees it kind of more prophetically, but it appears that she sees the danger of awakening love too soon. And she's trying to keep these young women out of that hurt and out of that pain. And she's saying, hey, don't go there too soon. Don't go there until it's time. Don't go there until it's the season for that. All right. So I think there's a little bit deeper thing to it there as well. And so as the chapter and the book end, we begin to see the beauty of their relationship and them defending their love of one another very strongly. So let's look at verses 5 through 14 and we'll finish up. Verse 5, it says that a relative is speaking, so someone who knows them. Who is this coming up from the wilderness? Because it said that they went out into the vineyard, Who is this? Who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? I awakened you under the apple tree. There your mother brought you forth. There she who bore you brought you forth. Verse 6, the Shulamite is speaking here to her beloved. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, for love is as strong as death, jealousy as cruel as the grave. Its flames are fire, flames of fire, a most vehement flame. Verse 7, many waters cannot quench love, nor can the floods drown it. If a man would give for love all the wealth of his house, it would be utterly despised. And so verse 8, now the Shulamite, the young lady's brothers are speaking. And they say this, we have a little sister and she has no breast. So basically it's like, this is our little sister. She's not mature or anything yet. She's not a woman. You know, they don't see her as a woman. They still see her as a little girl. What shall we do for our sister in the day when she is spoken for, the day that she is given in marriage, the day that she's married or whatever? Verse 9, if she is a wall, we will build upon her a battlement of silver. And if she's a door, we will enclose her with boards of cedar. So like they're going to protect her. And then 10, the Shulamite, she's speaking for herself. She says, I am a wall. So she's like, I am protected. And my breast, her breasts, I don't have breasts, her breasts are like towers. Then I became in his eyes as one who found peace. Solomon had a vineyard at Bel Hammon, and he leased the vineyard to keepers. Everyone was to bring for its fruit 1,000 silver coins. And then Solomon. And she's speaking to Solomon here. The Shulamite is speaking to her beloved Solomon. My own vineyard is before you. So she's kind of referring to herself as a vineyard. So she's saying, here, my own vineyard is before me. You, O Solomon, may have 1,000. So she's like, just like you lease out your vineyard, your physical vineyard, and people pay you for it. She's like, hey, I'm giving you my vineyard, and you can have you can have access to it for free. Um, You, O Solomon, may have 1,000, and those who tend its fruit 200. The beloved, you who dwell in the gardens, the companions listen for your voice. Let me hear it. And then verse 14, it says the Shulamite speaks here. The young lady speaks here to finish the chapter. Make haste and the book, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of spices. All right. So that is the end of the book of Song of Songs, and so I personally think it's a beautiful book. It is one that is challenging to study and teach and share and whatnot. But it is a beautiful depiction of seasons of love, the intentionality of love, and also just the heart of the father towards marriage and how he has designed the beautiful design that he has for marriage. And so if you guys got any questions or thoughts or anything like that, please let me know down in the comments. I'll be down there with you guys answering questions and whatnot. On Sunday for weekly Bible study at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, we will be beginning the book of Isaiah. So we're getting over into the prophets. We are at the prophets. I ain't so someone say amen. So we'll be getting over into the prophets. Please join us for that. You can go ahead and read ahead. We're going to be looking at chapters 1 through 12. Well, we may not look at all of them, but you can go ahead and read chapters 1 through 12 to be prepared. Chapters 1 through 12 of the book of Isaiah, and we'll see you guys. I'll see you guys, Sunday at 8 p.m. I don't have anything else. But listen, I love you all. I love you. But more importantly than that, the Father loves you. Let him love you, okay? Listen, start before you're ready and don't stop. I'll see you guys next time.